Yes, namaste and welcome everyone for today's open house webinar on the graduate level programs on Hindu studies at Hindu University of America. Our special guests are Dr. Indu Vishwanathan and Sri Kalyan Vishwanathan, president of HUA. Thank you for joining. Janaji from Hartford, Kentucky, thank you for joining. Bozidar Brazdaji from the Lower East Side, New York. Thank you. Ram Gopalji from Coimbatore. Welcome. Savita ji from San Jose. Glad to have you on. Mohinder ji from Maryland. Yes. If you and Kalyanji is saying, please show your name. You are safe here. This is a Hindu space. So glad to have all of you with us today for today's webinar. I'm Onkar Patel, Director of Advancement for Hindu University of America. And today we're really going to take a look at the different graduate level programs at HUA, because some of us have been thinking about what it would look like, what it would take to become an academic scholar and an expert in Hindu studies. If that's you, that is why we're glad to have you on with us today. And there's so many layers to becoming familiar with Hinduism, right? Through its lived traditions, sacred texts, spiritual practices, and doing that all at once is what it'll take to become a true academic scholar and expert in Hinduism. It'll take understanding the critiques that are laid against Hinduism by detractors, responding to those critiques, and there's a lot more that studying the Master of Arts in Hindu Studies or the Doctor of Hindu Studies, because they're structured to enable students to not only become experts on Hindu thought, but apply it, right, in practical, meaningful, and impactful ways. I'm glad to be on this journey at Hindu University of America. And so with that brief kind of outline, let me introduce Kalyan Vishwanathan, president of HUA. And he's been leading HUA since 2018, 2019. Officially, we've crossed 5 years. And it was his 21-year association with Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati, founder of the Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, that really set him on this trajectory. And it has been a pleasure working with Kalyanji as we stand up a Hindu University of America. And let me give a brief introduction to Dr. Indu Vishwanathan as well, and then I'll hand it over. So Induji, Dr. Indu Vishwanathan has a doctorate in education from the Teachers College in Columbia. She's got a BA in economics from Cornell, and an MA in elementary education from Teachers College at Columbia University. She has been a student with His Holiness Sri Ravi Shankar for over 15 years. And even though she started her career as the research assistant to the chief US economist at Citigroup, it was her dharma, it was her alignment that made her, helped her decide to become a teacher, that helped her align with her dharmic work. And so since then, she spent 20 years in the field of education. She's got global experience in program design, teaching, teacher education. She served at American public schools, international schools, and we are glad to have her as our director of education at Hindu University of America, really helping give structure and direction for all of these programs in Hindu studies that we are going to talk about. So with that, if you haven't put your name in the chat, please do. Mangalaji from Atlanta, glad to have you on. And it's my pleasure to host and be here with all of you for this open house on graduate level programs at Hindu University of America. And with that, Kalyanji, I'm sure you have some thoughts to start us off with.
Yeah. Namaste, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. This is really an open house, and I requested Pragyaji to invite everybody who has ever thought about, contemplated, been interested in getting a graduate degree in Hindu studies. Now, I want to preface this open house with by saying that, see, Hindu studies is itself a pretty new phenomenon. It has not existed for a long time. It has not existed in the US. It has not existed in the West. It's not existed in India. At least not in the sense that we are creating Hindu studies at Hindu University of America. Now, what do I mean by that? Those of you who have taken the Orientation to Hindu Studies course, you will readily recognize that there is a sharp distinction between the outsider view of Hinduism and the insider's view of Hinduism. And some scholars are beginning to recognize this, that there is a disparity here. And the outsider's view of Hinduism, the outside-in view of Hinduism, has no particular commitment to the practice, to the to the philosophical depth and the guidance that Hinduism has to offer for people. They have no particular commitment to it. Whereas insiders to Hinduism, like most of us are on this webinar, we have a deep commitment not only to the practice, to the internalization, the assimilation, the expression, but also more importantly, the transmission of Sanatana Dharma from generation to generation. The reason Sanatana Dharma has survived for so long is because in every generation, a few people, maybe a very small number of people, have stuck their neck out and said that the transmission of this Dharma from my generation to the next generation is a matter in which I am a stakeholder. I have a responsibility in that matter. And I personally will do something about it. I'm going to do something about it. However small it may be, however tiny it may be as a contribution. It is that expression, that commitment to the sustenance, the preservation, the transmission of Sanatana Dharma that has kept this Dharma alive. Right? And for eons and eons, the transmission of that Dharma was held in the hands of our traditional gurus, acharyas, rishis, yogis, munis, and so on, and siddhas, babas, and so many of them, who seem to, in their own way, come to the same point, same conclusion. They converge towards that recognition that I have to play a role in the transmission of this dharma from my generation to the next generation. Now, Hindu University of America is also an expression of that same commitment, with one difference. The difference is we want to establish and promote, systematize, institutionalize the academic study of Sanatana Dharma, which is different than going to a mandir, going to an ashram, going to a guru, going to a satsang, listening to pravachans and listening to kathas and so on. And the academic study of Sanatana Dharma is, in this generation, our generation, is very, very critical to establish. Why? Because academia has such an outsized influence, such an enormous influence on the way Sanatana Dharma is understood, perceived, assimilated, represented, practiced, and so on. So with that little background, right, the master's program in Hindu studies and the doctoral program in Hindu studies are our kind of the HUA's flagship programs. Okay, or everything else we do, the Master of Arts in Sanskrit is another flagship program. But Sanskrit and Hindu studies are the flagship programs that, in our view, will prepare scholars, academics, intellectuals of the future who are grounded in the understanding, the practice, uh, and the expression of Sanatana Dharma from a insiders, the practitioners' perspective. Okay, so what does the study of Sanatana Dharma look like from an insider's view, from a practitioner's view? Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss briefly. And over to you, Induji, to take it from here. And then, I want to structure it in maybe 20-30 minutes, a quick presentation, and then we'll take Q&A from the audience. Okay?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. The word that comes to mind that is a word that we've used a lot is this idea of stewardship. And I think very much we've designed graduate programs, graduate degrees that equip our students to be stewards of Hinduism in academic spaces and to put that emic, that internal view of Hinduism, into the foray of academia as stewards of Hinduism. So I'm just going to go through some presentations now of the two programs that Kalyanji just mentioned, the Master of Arts in Hindu Studies and then the Doctorate of Hindu Studies, the DHS. So you can see my screen? Great. All right. Can you see it?
Yes, yes.
Great, great. Okay. So welcome to the Master of Arts in Hindu Studies at the Hindu University of America. The MA in Hindu Studies is a comprehensive program that lays a foundation in Hindu studies, bringing timeless wisdom with modern challenges. Our master's program is founded on 5 key principles: establishing a solid foundation in Hinduism, which serves as the basis for N degrees, doctoral degrees in Hindu studies, exploring Orientalist and Indological perspectives, addressing contemporary challenges through a Hindu lens, and maintaining a student-centered design. By the end of the MA program, graduates will articulate a deep understanding of Hinduism, communicate its coherence across diverse expressions, critically evaluate Orientalist and Indological scholarship, be able to analyze how Western thought has impacted representations of Hinduism, and apply Hindu dharmic principles to contemporary global challenges and issues. The MA program sharpens key skills across these core competencies. So there's content mastery and lifelong learning, critical research and writing, and the appreciation of pluralism and dialogue. These competencies are crucial for both academic and professional success. And I just want to take a beat here to emphasize how this is not just about the sort of absorption of understanding Hinduism as a foundation, but being able to communicate that effectively in various academic settings. So that expression and that effective articulation and communication and teaching, all of this is really, really key to how we engage in the study of Hinduism at HUA. The Masters in Hindu Studies program establishes a foundation in Hinduism across these 3 dimensions, which Ankarji mentioned in his introduction: lived cultural traditions, varied spiritual practices, and primary textual sources. So you'll see that the way we've designed the program actually enlivens this. So when a student recognizes and appreciates the coherence of these 3 dimensions, how they all work together, how they dance together, how they sit together, we consider this to be a sound foundational understanding in Hinduism. And from here, from that space, that's from where we examine and understand and unpack and deconstruct the Western scholarship on Hinduism. So the foundation is in actually understanding Hinduism amically, internally. Our MA in Hindu Studies encompasses 36 credits spread across 12 courses, including foundational studies, academic preparation, and specialized applications. And for some students, this culminates in a master's thesis that's optional, that showcases rigorous research and insightful analysis. The scope and sequence of those 36 credits is spread across these 6 distributions and a field-based study. And we're going to take a look for a moment at what those 6 distributions look like. So this is what those 36 credits look like. And so you'll see Hindu Studies Foundation, 12 credits. So what are those 12 credits? What are they composed of? One course in each of these 4 blue sub distributions: Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta, and Darshanas. So you'll see these are the different possible course options that are available to fulfill that distribution requirement. In addition, students are required to take 2 credits in academic preparation. Remember, the successful and effective communication of what you're learning and thinking about is an important part of getting this foundation in Hindu studies. So basic and advanced writing. I happen to teach the Introduction to Writing in the Humanities and Writing 2 courses. And then Hinduism in the West, 2 courses are required across the possible menu. And these are just examples of what's offered in these 2 subdisciplines. And then you have 1 course in texts and traditions, 1 course in yoga studies, and 1 course in applications of Hindu thought. And you'll be able to find these courses, obviously you'll be able to find these courses on HUA's website. So this is not the only place where you can see this. So now we get to the field-based study, which is a really interesting, I think, innovation that we've designed at HUA that we saw sorely lacking in other graduate programs that look to take up Hindu studies. So the field-based study course is something that the student co-designs with an advisor. And it's an immersive experience in learning from a traditional dharmic environment and bringing that learning experience back to and making connections back with HUA coursework so that we're really building this bridge between these traditional dharmic learning environments and having them be in conversation with sort of Western style academia through HUA. So HUA can serve as that bridge. And if you're interested in this, we can share more about this, but these are the design criteria. So it's not just sort of an anything goes thing situation. It is structured. There is very intentional design in how this has been set up. And so I actually work with students to help design their field-based study course. They're co-designing the course. And this is actually a really exciting part of our master's program. And then we have the optional master's thesis. So MA students who are interested in graduating with honors or pursuing the terminal degree past the MA, so the Doctor of Hindu Studies or PhD, the MA thesis is required. And so that thesis, these are just the requirements of the MA thesis. It is a single authored original academic piece of writing. And we do have a graduate student writing rubric, and so it must demonstrate a certain capacity on that writing rubric, and also must reflect the programmatic learning outcomes. And obviously, all of the activities we take up at HUA align with the highest level of ethics and rigor and integrity in everything we do, and the MA thesis also does that. The thesis paper does not need to be bound for journal submission, but it must be academic writing. So more informal types of writing like blog posts, journalistic articles, etc., those can't be submitted for a master's thesis. And that master's thesis can actually further develop something they've already written, students have written for a class, or it could be something that's kind of sits above all of that. That's really their interest. And again, there will be advisement on how to develop out that master's thesis. And the thesis is then presented at HUA's graduate student conference. So that is the MA in Hindu Studies. Then we have, we have the professional doctorate in Hindu Studies. So the professional doctorate in Hindu Studies is a unique program. It really is. There's nothing like this that exists anywhere. that's designed to merge deep academic research with practical applications, preparing graduates to address contemporary challenges through the lens of Hindu thought. This doctoral program unfolds Hinduism across these three questions, these three dimensions. What are the challenges we face? Whether we can define we, however, as a Hindu community, as a global community in our different countries, however we want to define that. How can we understand those questions and how can we meet them? All through the lens of Hinduism, through Dharma. And so the program really takes up scholarly research, professional application, and direct community engagement. It very much is an applied doctorate. Here, students not only learn, but also apply their knowledge to real-world challenges. What sets our program apart is that the DHS at Hindu University of America is inherently interdisciplinary, integrating Hindu studies with fields like the social sciences, environmental sustainability, and international relations. Key components of our program include robust advisement, peer institutional study, and a strong emphasis on ethnography and other types of qualitative research. Our approach ensures a personalized and comprehensive educational experience. When we were designing the DHS, we took time to actually engage with all of these different groups you see in the orange boxes at the top. And we really dug deep into what was happening at the doctoral level, at premier institutions that take up something at least adjacent to Hindu studies, if they don't call it Hindu studies. And we were sort of shocked / not shocked to find out that there was not actually a lot of rigor in how those programs were designed. And they didn't really take up this idea of Hinduism as something that is applicable to contemporary society. And so we saw a huge gap, and we saw a huge opportunity at HUA to take up and to create and design a program that is not only rigorous, but actually takes up Hinduism as something that can build out fields of application out in the world. So from that, our program was built on these 5 key design principles: a flexible design encouraging field building. You'll see that term come up. Innovative interdisciplinary work, a focus on ethical indigenous research agendas, and the empowerment to tackle critical global issues effectively. Graduates of our program will master a variety of competencies, including critical inquiry, content mastery, further content mastery, professional presentation skills, and the ability to engage in pluralistic dialogues, all aimed at promoting epistemic justice and community leadership. And again, these same core competencies that you saw in the master's program are carried through into the doctoral program. So everything that students pick up at the master's level will continue to become more refined, more sophisticated through the doctoral program. As we engaged in those focus groups with community leaders and students, what emerged was this realization, this understanding that the DHS graduates and through their doctoral study work could actually engage in some of these potential application areas. And we were really excited to find that there were so many opportunities for Hindu expression, Hindu problem solving, Hindu creativity, imagination to come alive in all of these very applied areas out in society and in social institutions and in public institutions. So there's an opportunity here for our DHS students to take their Hindu studies and marry them with these other disciplines through their coursework, through their doctoral study, and become field builders in these spaces in Hindu expression. And some of these might even be surprising for some of you. Some of them might be obvious. Temple administration is kind of obvious. But places like environmental sustainability. So we're not just talking about Hindu institutions, we're talking about general social institutions. What are the Hindu sort of solutions and challenges and creativities and all these things that can emerge in these spaces that really are at the front of people's minds across society and not just in Hindu society. So the program consists of 60 credits, including obviously foundational courses in Hindu studies, specialized courses at the graduate level, and advanced research methods. This structure supports a deep and broad exploration of the field. So this is what the scope and sequence looks like. So you see we have research methods, core Hindu studies, intersectional studies, specialization courses, and that doctoral study. So we're going to take a look at what that looks like. So the research methods courses, again, students are required to take 3 courses. This is just a sampling of potential offerings in research methods. Core Hindu studies, students are required to take any 4 courses, and these are the different sub-distributions within core Hindu studies. Intersectional studies, so you'll see here intersection means where Hinduism and Hindus come into contact with other disciplines and other parts of the world. So as Kalyanji was mentioning earlier, this sort of Western narrative and Western ideas and Western gaze on Hinduism. So how do those 2 things kind of speak to each other? So that's really that intersection that we're talking about. And then the specialization references back to that previous couple of slides ago, that other discipline that the doctoral student is interested in. So this is where, for instance, if you wanted to marry Hindu studies with environmental studies or education or media or whatever it might be, this is where you might take those courses. So either they're offered through HUA or they might be offered through another institution, and we would create a relationship with that other accredited institution or, in order for that requirement to be met. Or if the student finds that it's not sufficiently met through either of those 2 options, there is the possibility of taking up an independent study under the guidance and supervision of one of our faculty members, and they would kind of design their own independent study and work with the faculty member to ensure that, you know, they're being guided properly and they're doing work that is up at the doctoral level. And then the doctoral study courses, these courses are really designed to support the student. So they're not just kind of doing this doctoral work all on their own. We actually want to set our students up for success, to successfully navigate the process of designing the doctoral study, which is in essence a dissertation. It's effectively a dissertation. It just involves field research, which might be a little bit different than a traditional PhD. So all students are required to pass a program-administered Sanskrit proficiency exam. But there are ways to move around this. And the student is required to pass that proficiency exam before their doctoral or defense. And then if a student's particular doctoral work requires a higher level skill of Sanskrit or any other language, you know, they'll work with their advisor to figure out how to demonstrate that level of fluency. So again, the professional doctorate does culminate in the doctoral study. The doctoral study is an original scholarly paper, the monograph that we're used to seeing as the dissertation, that examines a real-world challenge related to a specific applied area of Hindu studies and offering a practical solution. This is really important here. We're not just here to kind of problematize the world out there, but we really are thinking about how can we contribute to society? How can we contribute to the Hindu community? How can we contribute to uplifting whatever environments or communities or institutions that we're a part of? And so the doctoral study demonstrates that students' command of designing, executing, and presenting original research for the purpose of offering a practical solution. And so that coursework that I described earlier, the research methods, the writing, the doctoral studies seminar, etc., do support the student successfully doing this. And so these are just the stages and benchmarks of that doctoral study, which is not something, you know, you would have to worry about initially. This is later on. But this should look, for those of you who are familiar with what a PhD process looks like, this should look somewhat familiar. So it is a high level of rigor. And that is sort of the culminating moment for the DHS student. And once the DHS student has successfully defended their doctoral study, we feel that they have demonstrated a solid, comprehensive, and even advanced grasp of the learning outcomes, and they are ready to go out into the world to work in institutions, to steward Hinduism, and to uplift the planet as Hindu leaders.
Okay, terrific. Great. So that was a quick and wonderful overview of the 2 programs. And I'd like to now invite questions from the audience. And please put your questions in the Q&A box. Okay, Q&A box. Okay, so a couple of questions. Can you please explain things regarding scholarship for doctoral studies? Okay, so scholarships, a limited number of scholarships are available, and they will be considered obviously on a need-based basis. So the very first thing you'll have to do is to first apply for the program, and then subsequently apply for a scholarship. Okay, so there are two separate activities, and we will assess both based on the need as well as our availability of scholarship funds, and make a very few number of scholarships available. Okay, so next question. Field-based study. Okay, where did you take that? Field-based study.
Sure, absolutely. So this is very much done on a case-by-case basis, and there's no residency requirement. I'm kind of taking up the two questions that have come up around it. There is no on-site residency requirement per se. You can take that up in the way that makes the most sense for you. We know that our students have rich lives, and their lives are not only about their studies at HUA, so we want to make sure that whatever they design, we design together, is compatible with their life. So for some students, they might be excited about and able to go be on site someplace, whether that's in the United States or that's, wherever they are or where they want to go. The only requirement is that there is some kind of in-person interaction, but that might be complemented with, so for instance, you might have someone going to study at a dharmic site of learning for a week, let's just say. This is just an example, but that week of on-site study is forefronted, and also after the on-site time, there's sort of an ongoing Zoom session or lesson that's going on. And so you can see how there's just so many different ways that this can work. And in terms of the cost, that really is, we don't currently have any specific arrangements with institutions. We do see this as an opportunity to build out these relationships with dharmic institutions. We also see this as an opportunity for our students to reconnect with their own sort of ancestral sampradayas or whatever it might be. So we don't want to determine or prescribe what that might be. This is really an opportunity for that self-exploration, self-discovery. So I'm sure as time builds, we will start to have more formal relationships as our students start to enact this field-based study, but currently we don't have any formal arrangements with any institutions.
So I'd like to add something to this, right? I mean, in the in the design of this particular course, one of the principles, at least that I was trying to promote, was that this is an occasion. The field-based learning is an occasion for students to visit their sampradayas. For example, go to Belur Mutt in Calcutta, or stay there for a month, or go to Sringeri Mutt, or go to a Madhva Mutt in Udupi, or visit Mayapur in Bengal, or go to Haridwar or Rishikesh, and basically participate in an immersive experiential learning process in which they do expand their understanding, their experience, their practice of Hinduism in some dimension that makes all the theoretical work that we are doing much more real and much more experiential, right? And oftentimes in academia, that experiential dimension is somehow it becomes it recedes into the background in favor of theoretical work, right? And we wanted to bring that experiential dimension to the forefront. And at the same time, we want to respect the immense diversity of possibilities that exist within the world of Sanatana. Okay, so I mean, reconnect, explore, investigate, experience something completely new that you have never experienced before, and bring it back into your master's program. That is the idea. So I think it's a very interesting idea. Let's see what all happens by virtue of field-based learning.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, because we are an online university, I'm speaking as an educator now, we know pedagogically that online university students benefit from in-person learning opportunities because learning happens not just through the intellect, there's things happening. And we know that in Western education, and we also know that in dharmic education, that learning happens at so many different layers of our being and not just the intellect. And so this is an opportunity to learn in person in a site that is steeped in dharmic practice, not just at the intellectual level, but at so many other levels. So it's really, really exciting. And I think it is illustrative of how this truly is a community institution. HUA is a community institution. We're here for the community and to support the community. And this is a way to kind of bring us all together, to wrap us all together in a way that is really embraces the pluralism that is inherent to Hinduism.
Great. The duration of the graduate program, well, the master's program, if as a full-time student, you can finish it in less than 2 years, maybe in 3 semesters or maybe 4 semesters. Okay, as a full-time student. But you can also, as a part-time student, you can take longer. In any case, it should be complete in approximately 5 years. The doctoral program is the same case. You can finish it much faster if you're a full-time student, but as a part-time student who's got other commitments in life, you can take up to 10 years to finish it. What about prerequisites, right? What are the prerequisites?
So one of the prerequisites is obviously, because these are graduate programs, students are required to have an undergraduate degree. That's a basic requirement. The prerequisite for the MA is the Orientation to Hindu Studies course, which is offered as a community education course. So that's not at the graduate level, but it does really, as the name suggests, orient one to furthering their Hindu studies. The prerequisite for the Doctor of Hindu Studies is either the MA in Hindu Studies, an MA in Sanskrit, an MA in an adjacent discipline. If one has a master's or other graduate degrees in fields that are not related to Hindu studies, that's something for us to really advise on a case-by-case basis. But because the DHS builds off of this foundation, this academic foundation in Hindu studies, students would really be at a disadvantage if we just sort of like let them jump from that point into the DHS. So there would likely have to be some more coursework established sort of pre-DHS in order to start with the DHS. But that would really happen on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, great. Okay, so next question, is the completion of the MA required for the DHS program? Yes, it is required. I mean, except like Indu said, if you already have an MA in an adjacent degree. Okay, so that's a very interesting term. What is adjacent? Okay, so we'll discuss that on a case-by-case basis. Next question. Yeah, if you complete the MA and then continue for the PhD, yes, the number of credit hours doesn't change. Okay, it has to be exactly 36 credit hours for the master's and 60 credit hours for the doctoral program, a total of 96 credit hours. Okay, fees. Somebody is asking about fees. Yeah, so our programs are, the fee structure for our programs is based upon a per credit hour fee. and we're talking about semester credit hours here. It's $500 per credit hour. So the 36 credit hour master's programs, its price is $18,000. There are payment plans. I mean, if you pay in full in one shot, that fee can come down a little bit. If you pay over time, it will go up a little bit. So we can discuss all of that in a one-on-one discussion. Is there a reduced fee potential for India-based students? My answer is you should apply for that, and then we'll discuss it one-on-one. Okay, we're not advertising at the moment a overall reduction in fees. Scholarships are certainly available for India-based students. Okay, I assume the program would be online. Scheduling of online. Yeah, so time zones. Time zones are obviously a challenge, as you can imagine, depending on where you are in the world. But mostly we try to accommodate as much as possible, and the programs in the mornings can be taken in the evenings. In India, classes in the evening can be taken in the morning. Sometimes if you're in Australia or other parts of the world, it can become a little difficult. What are the admissions criteria for entry into the graduate program? I think Indu just went over that.
Yeah, there's an application.
Yeah, you have to apply. First step is you have to apply. Just send in an application. Okay. There is that. See, there's on the website, there is I mean, why don't I show that to you? How to apply? Let me show that. I think that could be valuable for some people. So I'm going to share my screen now, show you exactly how you apply. Let me know once you can see my screen. Okay. Are you able to see my screen, everybody?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is the home page of the website. Okay. And if you go here in the menu, there is a place called admissions. There is a sub-menu called admissions. And if you click on this, there's an item here called apply. When you click on apply, basically it opens up a little form. Okay. And this form is just the beginning, the first step of the process. You fill this form out and hit the submit button, you're in the pipeline. Somebody will be in touch with you and walk you through the next steps. And little by little, you can complete your application. So that is as easy as that. Okay, so you just get started by filling out that form. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Anonymous attendee. If you're not sure which course we want to do, can you start with the certification course or the master's program and then transition to the DHS? Absolutely, absolutely. You can do whatever sequence you want. But keep in mind, the certification program credits will not count for the master's program or the doctoral program. Okay, so they are at two different levels. The certificate program credit hours are primarily quarter credit hours, and they are taught at a level that is more amenable for a broader community education. The academic rigor is much greater in the master's and doctoral programs. So there will be no transfer of credit across these two divisions. Srikant Kapali is asking, so 36 credits for the master's, 60 for the PhD, 96 credits. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, can you give examples of institutions for field-based studies? Yeah, great question. Okay, I'll give you two examples, and then Indu can give two examples. Okay, so I'll give you one example. Is very, very simple, straightforward. My favorite institution where I grew up a lot of my time, Arsha Vidya Gurukulam. You can spend some time in Sailorsburg, Pennsylvania, sometime in Rishikesh in India, and sometime in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu, and that'll cover Arshavidya Group. That's one example. Another example is the Vedanta Society. Go to Belur Mutt in Calcutta, spend some time there, go to New York City, and have a very intense personal internship or whatever, study under Swami Sarvapriyananda. That could be another example. Two examples. Okay, Induji, your turn.
Sure. An example, I'll go to my favorite one, is to go through the Art of Living's yoga teacher training course and link that back with your yoga studies at HUA. Another example would be really to explore this through the traditional Hindu arts, so through dance or music or artistic study. And if you're already inclined towards that, it could just be deepening that and making those connections. But I think we often overlook the arts as a place to really deeply understand Hindu philosophy through our lens in the West. And we know that I'm thinking of Bharatanatyam in particular, and Hindu dance in particular, there's active work in trying to detach devotion and shraddha from those expression of the arts. And so it's really important for us to reestablish those connections. So those are two examples I can think of.
Great. Now, research, is there an option for DHS to pursue research related to Vedas, their impact on the physical sciences like math? Yeah, absolutely. See, I think, the DHS program has been designed in a manner that it is so open-ended that it can offer up, literally a vast variety of research possibilities. Okay. And I think we want our students to pursue very diverse research interests through a single program, but branch off in many, many different directions as per their respective.
Yeah, so that also answers a question that came up later about taking up other disciplines. It's really up to the students. We're not determining what these other disciplines are. Whatever a student's disciplinary interest might be that they want to marry with Hindu studies, the sky's kind of the limit here. It's really about what students are interested in. I just want to make sure we're clear on the first part of Srikantji's question, that yes, the PhD credits or the Doctor of Hindu Studies credits are in addition to the master's credits. And that's not just because we feel we want to ensure our students are rigorously prepared to be these field experts, but these are requirements of the accrediting commissions that the credits for the doctoral degree are in addition to the credits for the previous degree, the master's degree.
So a question on comparative religions. I'm going to answer it this way. We have not situated courses explicitly on Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and so on in the Hindu studies program at the moment. Okay. But, I can tell you our professors are constantly engaging in interreligious comparative discourse in many of the courses that they teach naturally. Okay. And in the future, that potential is always there. And we may begin with some of the Dharma traditions which originated in India and then maybe move on to other religions of the world. Okay, visa requirements. Actually, listen, these programs are primarily online. They can be taken from wherever you are. And they don't really require a travel to the US at the moment.
If I'm not mistaken, it's hard to know, anonymous attendee. Is it that you currently are in the US with a work visa, and the question is around if you switched to being a full-time student, would HUA be able to support that? I don't know if that's where the question is coming from. I don't know if we've done that before, Kalyanji.
No, we have not done that. We're not at the moment able to do much in terms of visa processing and all of that.
Yeah.
Potential opportunities for the ME and DHS graduates. Okay, great. That's a fantastic question. Okay, so this is one of the challenges and questions that I often encounter, which is what will our students do after they finish, after they get a degree in Hindu studies, an MA in Hindu studies, or a doctor of Hindu studies? Where will they go? Okay, and in part, this question stems from, I believe, a, a proclivity in the Hindu community to greatly prefer the science, technology, engineering, medicine, management, business, and so on. Okay, I think the broader question here is, what are the jobs and career opportunities available for scholars in the humanities, the social sciences, liberal arts in general, and then how does Hindu studies fit into that broader spectrum? Okay, so if we frame that question that way, I think it makes a little more sense. So, Indu, why don't you take a shot at this, and then we will
Sure.
come
So
back.
I think I'll start with the DHS. I think this is really co-created. The opportunities post DHS are co-created with the student and their advisors. A really, I would say, skillful way of negotiating that would be to think about that other discipline that you're engaging with as the potential site of employment, whether it's a social institution, a public institution. So if you're going to be studying, Hinduism and contemplating like media studies, for instance, you could become the Hindu religious advisor for, a media house. And you would think about constructing your doctoral study work in those spaces so that you're already engaging with those people in that space as you're a doctoral student, so that it kind of just naturally leads towards some sort of an employment opportunity. So this is where I would say the DHS differs very much from a traditional PhD, which really sets you up for a traditional job in academia. So that's always a possible outcome for both the DHS and the PhD, is a traditional professorship job in academia. And of course, that is very much an important commitment of HUA, is to create new generations of professors and scholars in academia. But again, the DHS, I think, provides opportunities to think outside the box, to build those fields. So for instance, if you were to study to examine chaplaincy in hospitals, where we have a lot of Hindus working in our hospitals, but we don't really have Hindu chaplains working in those hospitals to support our medical professionals as they navigate what can be very difficult, psychological and emotional outcomes of working in those fields. You could think about that as a potential expertise for you to go in and work in those spaces, or even create trainings around Hindu chaplaincies. And so that could be something that's a way of building out that field. So I would offer that there are the traditional spaces of working in academia that kind of exist and that we would like to participate in. But there's also this idea of us building out these fields through the DHS and creating the jobs, or showing up in places where other religions other communities are showing up to say, hey, I'm representing my community in media, I'm representing my community in, chaplaincy, I'm representing my community in education. We don't have those people showing up right now. The DHS is an opportunity for us to show up. So that's what I would offer. But it's really, as Kalyanji was saying, it's really thinking outside the box. It's not like it's going to be a job that's necessarily just there waiting for you. This involves a lot of creativity and ingenuity as well.
Right. And there will come a time in the future that there will be many more institutions and many more jobs that are readily available, but we are not there yet. We are at an early stage of building an entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
And the Hindu University of America as a place of academic study is just one component of a much larger ecosystem that is just in the very beginning stages of emerging. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. Now, before we move on, I would like Ankur to kind of throw up the poll. Okay, there is a poll associated with this webinar. Please, I request everybody to fill out this poll. Just say whatever comes to your mind. Check the box that's most applicable to you, and then just please don't abstain from answering. Just say something. You're not interested, just say not interested. Okay. Okay, now question, when does enrollment start? Well, enrollment is, actually it starts now for you, okay? So it's ongoing, right? You can always apply and you can join in any semester, really speaking. And you can, you just have to go through the admissions process, which will involve many things. So submitting a bunch of documents from your side, your prior educational accomplishments, maybe an essay that you write, and maybe an interview with a faculty from the academic committee. So the admissions process will go through a few stages before you are admitted into the program. Okay, next question. Very interesting. Additional areas like management, economy, and environment could be added to the PhD program. Yeah, actually, our view is they're all already there by way of possibilities for specialization. And yes, certainly we will more intentionally add courses in those areas in the future. Okay, Indology is being used in a, you seem to think Indology is a neutral term. It is being used differently here. Why a neutral term is being given a shade? Okay, Vibhavari, I know you have been asking this question before, because I recognize your question. I recognize also the tone of your question. My recommendation to you is really, just take up the orientation to Hindu studies course at the next possible opportunity. I think we'll have a lot more space and time to discuss this in detail in that course. But I'll say this broadly, Indology was created by the European study of India, right? For a few hundred years, when India was in an extremely weakened, debilitated condition, the study of India, the professionalized, institutionalized study of India was generated. And it was generated primarily in Europe. So Indology in its origins was the European study of India. Okay, not the Indian or the Hindu study of it. And Hindus, unfortunately, we kind of joined that bandwagon. So we want to parse out what is this thing called Indology. That actually happens even before you enter the master's program. It happens in the orientation to Hindu studies.
What I'll add to that is, the question states, wondering why a neutral term is being given shades. I just want to unpack the assumptions that sit beneath that. And a large part of what we do at HUA is unpacking assumptions that have registered as just fact in the public consciousness about Hinduism. So I just want to recognize that the idea that Indology is a neutral term is based on assumptions. And part of what we're doing is unpacking those assumptions.
Next question. Arsha Vidya in New Jersey. Actually, it's in Pennsylvania, not in New Jersey. It can be part of field-based study, yes. Can we also do comparative study of religion, Hinduism, doctoral program? Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would argue there that that's much more of an esoteric, and unless you're taking it up in a way that's very applied in the field with communities. If it's an esoteric comparative study, that's probably more of a traditional PhD than an applied doctorate in Hindu studies.
Yeah. Okay, is there a different credit rate for Bharat-based students? You have to apply for a scholarship, okay? Apply for the program and apply for a scholarship. That's the way that is going to begin. The orientation to Hindu studies course is going to be available in summer. Okay? So you can start it in July. Okay, we're almost at the very end of the questions. Ankur, let me just make one more appeal. Please fill out the survey if you haven't, the poll if you haven't already filled out. And Ankur, can you show the results of the poll, perhaps?
Yeah, we have 19 people out of 33 who filled it out. If you find it, just minimize, maximize, fill it out. Anybody? Right. There you go.
Okay. All right, great. So everybody who said they're interested, right? Please, somebody will reach out to you to have a call with you. Please do acknowledge that call and schedule some time, and then we'll certainly take it from there. Okay, wonderful. So let's see, are there any more questions? All right, great. Okay, I think we are running out of questions here. So I'd like to probably bring this webinar to a close. We're right on time at the top of the hour. Wonderful webinar. First of all, Induji, thank you so much for joining today. Really appreciate it. And everybody who participated and listened to this conversation, thank you all for joining, and look forward to seeing you in one of the graduate programs. Okay, with that, namaste everybody. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye-bye.